Maria Theresa of Savoy was born at the royal palace of Turin on January 31st, 1756. She was the fifth child and third daughter of Victor Amadeus III of Sardinia and his wife Maria Antonia of Spain. Maria Theresa's paternal grandparents were King Charles Emmanuel III of Sardinia and his wife Polyxena of Hesse-Rheinfels-Rotenburg. Her maternal grandparents were King Philip V of Spain and his second wife, Queen Elizabeth Farnese. In 1771, her older sister Marie-Joséphine of Savoy married Louis Stanislas of France, Count of Provence, who was a grandson of King Louis XV and the younger brother of the later Louis XVI. 2 years later, on November 16, 1773, Maria Theresa herself married another grandson of Louis XV, Charles-Philippe of France, Count of Artois, the future king, Charles X. The marriage did not seem to suit either Charles or Maria Theresa, as the Count of Artois preferred to marry the sparkling Louise Adélaïde de Bourbon-Condé, while the diminutive, somewhat ill-shaped and clumsy Maria Theresa remained silent throughout the celebration. The union was a mismatch, and shortly after the wedding, Charles left for Paris to join his mistress Rosalie Duthé. Despite the mismatch, and unlike the Dauphine Marie-Antoinette and her sister Marie-Joséphine, who had problems conceiving, Maria Theresa very quickly gave birth, and by doing so, she provided possible heirs to the throne. Her first pregnancy and the birth of the Duke of Angoulême on August 6, 1775, were celebrated at court, even though they dismayed Marie Antoinette, who by then was Queen of France. The lack of consummation of Marie Antoinette's marriage to Louis XVI caused the Queen to be disliked by the public for not giving birth herself. In total, 4 children were born to Maria Theresa and Charles: Louis-Antoine d'Artois, Duke of Angoulême, who would go on to marry Maria Theresa of France, who was the daughter of the deceased Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette; Mademoiselle d'Artois, who was unbaptized at her time of death and is wrongly called Sophie; Charles Ferdinand d'Artois, Duke of Berry, who married Caroline of Naples and Sicily; Mademoiselle d'Angoulême, who died at the age of 6 months while her parents were at Choisy-le-Roi. She too was unbaptized at the time of her death and is often wrongly called Marie-Thérèse. Prior to the meeting of the États Généraux in 1789, every member of the royal family was publicly mocked by derogatory pamphlets in which Maria Theresa was claimed to have given birth to an illegitimate child. As time progressed, Charles lost all interest in his wife and returned to his many mistresses. Because of her lack of attractiveness, Maria Theresa was not held in high regard at the French royal court. She was gifted with little wit and little beauty, and suffered from a shyness that could only hinder the life of representation she had to lead. Lacking the qualities required to please the superficial court of Versailles caused her to be one of the least loved members of the royal family at court, although her sister-in-law Marie Antoinette was probably loved less, although the reasons were quite different. As a result, Maria Theresa spent most of her time living in seclusion at Saint-Cloud. After the eruption of the French Revolution, Maria Theresa and her husband were forced to flee France in 1789 and made their way to Turin. Charles left Maria Theresa in 1795, then shortly afterwards called his sons to serve in the counter-revolutionary army. Maria Theresa remained in Turin, deeply saddened by the departure of her sons. After the capture of Turin by French troops in December 1798, Maria Theresa fled to Klagenfurt in 1799 and from there on to Graz. There, Maria Theresa of Savoy died, mentally shaken and suffering from paranoid episodes, on June 2, 1805, at the age of 49, long before her husband would ascend the French royal throne. She was buried in the imperial mausoleum next to the Graz Cathedral. Following her will, her heart was buried in the tomb of her sister-in-law Clotilde in Naples 10 years after her death. Thank you for watching.